So boys, I want to talk about masculine maxing. So you probably heard of personal development, you probably heard of self-improvement, but it's all bullshit because the real deal is masculine maxing. We're so focused on the wrong things. We're focused on tracking our calories, focused on tracking how many steps we're taking. Make sure you get those 10k steps. You know, it's all bullshit. We are absolutely focused on the wrong thing, and here I want to show you. I broke down some components of being masculine, of becoming a masculine man, that I want to share with you, and hopefully you learn from this. So going straight into it, what you must break free from, part one. There's a couple parts because there's quite a few components. So what I'm noticing, what I'm seeing is men are really, they've been conditioned to be very compliant. They're okay with being told what to do. They're just like a little dog. They're too afraid to state their own opinion. They're too afraid they will be unliked. It sort of ties in with people pleasing. For example, another man can tell you what to do or how to do something, and you're just there like, yes, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like a dog. But stop being compliant, man. Have some balls to yourself, because that really is the only thing you have on this world, your balls. Now, of course, I'm not saying break the law or, tell a police officer to fuck off. No, because you're a gentleman, you're kind. But don't stop being submissive. Too many guys, they're okay with being told what to do and being commanded around. That's not what masculine maxing is about, because you lose your essence as a man. All right, shyness. I believe shyness has been instilled into us from a young age, from our parents. Well, for me, it was my mother. You could be doing anything as a kid. You could be playing and she'll be like, oh no, child, don't do this. No, that's not good. Child, bad. Just bullshit like that. And it slowly conditioned you to be afraid to almost interact with people. Another example that your mother could have done is, let's say the grown-ups were talking at a table and you come in and you join and you try to talk, you try to this, and she says, no, only the grown-ups are allowed here, you know what I mean? Again, that does subconsciously affect you, and in the long term, you just end up being shy. You over nothing, your face starts going red out of embarrassment. You could be having like a random conversation with a stranger and you just automatically go red, you go shy, you turn embarrassed. And another thing contributing to our shyness is our lack of social exposure, right? We've become so antisocial. Okay, some of us can, you probably have a long shift, and when you come back from that shift, you want to go to the gym. And when you get home, I don't know, you maybe have a couple hours for yourself, do whatever the fuck, and then go to sleep and repeat that. So we have no social reps, no social exposure. We must go out, we must interact with people, interact with strangers. We must overcome this shyness. The third point here is no assertiveness, right? Us men, assertiveness has been stripped away from us. Have you noticed a lot of men, they're talking like a bitch, right? They're just, again, all of these just tie in together. When you're compliant, you're being submissive, you're not assertiveness, you don't have self-belief, and you become shy to state your own beliefs. So yeah, perhaps we don't have self-belief in ourselves, and when someone tells us something, instead of saying no, respectfully, no, it's not like this, it's like this, because I know it's like this, and you explain to him. No, we're just submissive, right? We just agree, we people please. We try to make the other guy happy. We prioritize the other guy's feelings over our own, all right? And that's not good. Fear of bold maneuver. So the way we were raised, it was fully, I'm going to use the dog example again. Like we had a leash on our necks, And whenever we done something out of our own natural will, out of our childlike curiosity, we've just had that leash pulled, right? No, you can't do that, child. Our masculine essence, our spirit has just been crushed by society. We can't do this, we can't do that, we want this, but we're not allowed. We lost what we once had as children. We had this curiosity for life. We had this spirit within us. So instead of adopting this mindset of a military strategist, to be courageous, to take high risk action, to take decisive action, it's just been suppressed, and we've just turned into pussies. Weak tone of voice, I touched onto this earlier, but I'm seeing a lot of young guys just afraid to speak their mind, afraid to give their true thoughts on a subject. But not even that. You could be just greeting someone, anyone, a friend, a stranger. You could be greeting them and you'll be like, oh, yeah, hi. Yeah, no, just this low testosterone. We need to have enough self-belief in ourselves that we show we are confident and we are secure in who we are in ourselves. So that's another thing that I want you to be aware of. So let me go over to part 2. A lot of men have weak body language and eye contact. And I'll put posture and handshake as well, because it ties into body language. But men don't have masculine body language and they don't have a strong eye contact. They, when they're talking, when they're socializing with people, they just make the body language small. They're closing their legs tight so their balls get squished. Their head is down, their shoulders are slumped. You just want to have an open body language. You want to have this calm energy to yourself. Yeah. And a strong masculine body language paired with strong eye contact. Now, but for eye contact, don't make it weird, because what I'm seeing is people are too self-conscious of their eye contact. So instead of being focused on the other guy's dialogue, being immersed in his words and listening, you're too busy with this internal dialogue thinking, should I look away? Am I looking too intensely? Does he think I'm dominating him? Just bullshit like that. But when you're secure in yourself, when you have this calm confidence, you just look, you pair it with charisma, with your charm, with your smile, with your just be a gentleman. And when he's talking, you look at him, maybe you look to the side and then you look back, but don't be too self-aware about it, because you're going to make it weird. Yeah. So posture. The main thing really is this slouched shoulders and your head just looking down, and again, maybe you're crossing your leg in a feminine way, just squishing your balls. Because what creates a state? What creates a state? The state that you want. So, okay, your goal is to create you want this masculine, high energy aura, right? So that's the state you want to achieve. So you change your physiology paired with your internal representations of the world. This creates your state. So the second you sit up, you slightly pop your chest out, your head is up, and you have this internal representation of perhaps you're thinking of a masculine figure and you want to model him. So the way you communicate to yourself plus your body language is going to give you this state that you're looking for. So handshake. Again, guys have this flimsy bitch handshake. Just maybe they don't go to the gym and they have a weak forearm, or they just don't have self-belief in themselves. They don't have confidence. Just shake the man's hand with confidence. So when you take all of these components and put it into one, so you're approaching the guy, you're smiling, you got eye contact locked in, your body language is calm, it's masculine, you have a strong posture, you're in a resourceful state, and your internal representation is telling you, I'm the man. and you go in for that handshake, for that strong handshake, not too strong, but you're just giving off this good energy, that you're just confident in yourself. A lot of guys have low energy. I mean, it's not surprising. Your brain is filled with dopamine from video games, from porn, from junk food. All of that shit just messes with your body, and it puts you in this low resourceful state, and you're just low energy, and you're just looking down, and you're slumped, and you can't be asked to do anything. You don't really have a purpose in your life. You don't have goals with actionable steps to go towards. And this ties in with low testosterone, because all of these habits that we indulge, such as, again, games, porn, food, tap water, this all decreases our testosterone, which as a consequence, we have low energy. Energy is really the goal in self-improvement. You know what I mean? Without energy, you can't really do absolutely nothing, because you'll just want to lay in your bed like a castrated cat all day, just scrolling TikTok. You know what I mean? Overthinking just sort of destroys your spirit, your spontaneity as a man. Instead of doing the things that actually matter, instead of taking action, you're busy thinking, did I take enough vitamin D pills? I forgot to eat a banana for the potassium. You know what I mean? Just stupid little useless things that are completely useless and we don't need. So we have a lot of social fears. We're afraid to start conversations with strangers. We're afraid to approach that cute girl that we saw on the street. We're afraid, we're just afraid to interact with people and to have conversations and state our opinions and state our views on the world. But the only thing you can do to overcome the social fears is reps. That's all there is. There's no magic potion, right? You can't sprinkle some fairy dust and it's gone. You need a lot of reps. So when you go to the cafe, talk to people. You initiate, you start conversations, you approach that girl, tell her she's beautiful. Okay? We're gonna jump onto this quickly, part 3. Yes, break free from being your woman's bitch. And that's what this is probably the number one problem, right? This is probably the root that leads to just losing your masculine essence. The man becomes weak, the man becomes a pussy. He stops trying to develop himself as a man, and his woman sees this. His woman sees his lack of purpose, his lack of drive, this low energy, low testosterone. And what happens is she starts to think you are incompetent as her man, and she develops this masculine energy. So the dynamic shifts. You become more feminine, she becomes more masculine, and she starts commanding you around. She starts bossing you around. She's telling you, you have to ask her for permission to go out. Just bullshit like that, and you just become a compliant dog to your woman, right? But it shouldn't be like that at all. Okay, seeking approval / external validation. You need to have this trust in yourself that you're a leader, you know the way, you bring people onto your path. You don't search for external validation in order to do something. You don't seek approval, right? If you state something that you believe in, you're just seeing, oh, did they agree with me? Again, don't be a people pleaser, okay? Trust in yourself. You know the path. You bring people onto your path. You are the wolf, yeah? You're the leader. Okay, this is a big one. Apologizing for existing, right? And I put for existing because men are fucking apologizing for everything. Absolutely everything. They just like, oh, sorry. Oh, no, sorry. No, sorry. No, oh, sorry. What is this bullshit? Okay? Absolutely everything they do. Oh, sorry. Everything they say. Oh, sorry. You know, why? Why? You're a man, bro. Don't apologize for shit. You know, you done something because you felt it was right. You're not gonna apologize for it. Okay, being a people pleaser, you've heard this term quite a few times by now, but we are too afraid. We're too afraid not to let people down. We're too afraid of other people's opinions on us, basically. That's all it is. You're too afraid to counter someone's beliefs that are not aligned with yours. So if someone says something you find a bit stupid, or you don't simply don't agree with it, you just comply with him instead of stating your own beliefs. Instead of saying, no, it's not like this. I don't believe it's like this because XYZ. Why are people so afraid to do that? You know what I mean? So please practice. Use it as mental practice to counter someone else's beliefs that you don't believe in. Simple. Angry over small things. Men are too emotional. Yeah. People are too emotional and they just get upset and angry over the smallest things. You know, if you can't, with the boys, just take the piss out of each other, you know, like basically tease each other. And if you take it personally, you've got an issue. And I'm also seeing a lot of guys reading stoicism, trying to be stoics. You've got nothing truly to be stoic about. Right? You're not Marcus Aurelius. You're not the emperor. You don't control an entire nation, an entire country. You know, we're never gonna be, well, I'm not gonna say never because anything is possible, but we're not gonna be at that level, especially right now. Like the only thing you're gonna be stoic about is stubbing your toe on a table. You know what I mean? But what's important is, however, is to have a control over your mind, to not be impulsive, to not be so emotional. You can't be angry at small things. Anyway, life is gonna make you stoic anyways. When you put yourself out there, when you go through shit, when you experience stuff, you're just gonna develop this calm over your head, right? Because you've been through the storm. It's not so unknown for you anymore. You're just calm in it. You can be calm in it. You learn to through life. All right, number 4, the last slide. You're right, diluting yourself by oversharing. People are oversharing instantly too much. They speak more than is necessary. They share too much about themselves. And you know, you're losing your value. And I'm not saying be mysterious, because you know you got a lot of TikTok kids that want to be mysterious. But of course, have some mystery to yourself, but you've got to be known for something anyways, you know. You've got to be known for something. But don't overshare. Don't tell your whole life story. You know those guys, you can meet a random guy at the pub, you start a conversation, then he'll tell you his whole life, he'll tell you his problems. Don't overshare, because you are diluting yourself. You're almost losing you're losing some value to yourself. This is pretty obvious, but men have become emasculate once technology came around. So I guess it's a big problem, social media and all of this stuff. But you've got to truly, what I believe a man should do is immerse himself into the pre-internet era, right? Whether it's books like autobiographies, whether it's music like classical music, whether it's art, right? You want to like connect with your ancestors, connect with this pre-internet era. An activity that they've done is spend time in nature. That's all they could do. And there's something calming, there's something special about spending time in nature. You know, you're like away from technology, it's just you, Mother Nature, your thoughts, you just flow. So the last point that I wanted to put here is combat sports. I believe it's so important as a man to practice combat sports. Even the disciples of Jesus were wrestling. Combat sports have been around forever, and this is truly the biggest leverage lever to masculine maxing, right? Learning a combat sport, it's an art. It truly is an art. You learn to you know how to defend yourself. You become confident in yourself. You don't become so angry over nothing. You know those guys when they bump shoulders into someone and they start saying, "Do you know who I am? And they're looking for a fight." Like, that's just pussy shit. But combat sport, it makes you more grounded. It gives you self-belief. It removes this nervousness in public. It removes this fear of conflict, right? Because you know you can handle a situation. Now, I'm not saying go and look for a fight. What I would advise is to completely try and remove yourself from any conflict situation, right? No matter how good you are, no matter how much belief you have in yourself and your capabilities, just no, bro, I don't want to fight. I'm not looking for trouble. If they close in on you, you have no options. You have no other choice. But even then, you're the one that's going to come out on top because you know combat. But I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to leave this for you to think about, to truly become aware, to see if any of these components apply to your life right now. And I guess the most important thing is to become aware of it. Then you can start making an action plan, a battle plan to overcome all of your limitations, to overcome this modern man plague. We've got to rebuild masculinity.